All right, so let's start with two big busts. Jamie, give me two, even if we just talked about them, whoever you want, two big busts.
Yeah, I mean, Adams and Samuel are probably the two headliners for me. I think Adams, it feels like he's just being drafted as if everything's going to be the same. He's going to be a top 3 wide receiver again, top 2. I know that's not where he's getting drafted, but in some cases, I think the ADP at some point, it might have been NFC or Fantasy Pros that was on our site, but he was in the top 3 receivers ahead of Jamar Chase. And so I think if you've heard me say this ad nauseum, if you've been watching us this entire offseason, the target difference in Green Bay between him as the number 1 guy and the number 2 guy was glaring. It was in some cases a couple of years, 60 target difference between him and Aaron Jones, who was the second guy there. That's not going to be the case with the Raiders. He's not going to have that much separation, barring injury, between himself and Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. And again, factoring both those guys and what they should mean to their offense, plus the running backs and the run game. And so he's still going to be very good. He's still going to be a top 10 wide receiver, again, unless he completely falls off, which I can't imagine happening. But it's a quarterback downgrade. It's a distribution change in targets that's going to change. And he's had 2 seasons in his amazing stretch, 7-year stretch of being this fantastic fantasy star, or 8-year stretch where he's been still a top 10 receiver. And I think that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a sub 20 PPR point season, which will still be very good. I think it'll be closer to about 17 points per game, 18 points per game. And that puts him closer to 10 than it does to 2.
So that's Davante Adams.
And then Debo, again, just the risk of losing touches in the backfield, because I think that's going to happen. You cut it in half, essentially, if everybody's healthy. Now, he does get a boost if Elijah Mitchell's not there, because that's kind of what spurred this on last season, was when Mitchell got hurt and they needed help in the backfield. But they bring in Davis Price. They trust Sermon seemingly a little bit more. They have Jeff Wilson back. Trey Lance is obviously going to move much more than Jimmy Garoppolo did. And you saw at the end of the season, whether it was a byproduct of him just spending more time in the backfield or Brandon Ayuk getting out of the doghouse, Ayuk out-targeted him down the stretch. And so with everything that Ayuk has done this offseason and training camp, he's going to be more of a factor for the quarterback. And Kittle hopefully healthy, not necessarily as a detractor to Debo, just across the board. But I just think that we're going to see Debo's numbers come down a little bit. Still be very good, still be excellent as a fantasy option. I'm not saying you run away from him. I'm just not taking him in round 2.
Who do you like better, Metcalf or Cooper? And when do you think they should be going? Metcalf is 48th over the past week at NFC. He is not wide receiver 48th overall. He's 45th overall on NFC and CBS. I'll tell you in a moment. But give me Metcalf or Cooper, and why are they both busts?
So I like Metcalf a lot more than I like Cooper. I would take Metcalf early in round 6. I've got him at 663. Cooper is not a top 40 wide receiver for me and is in round 9. Cooper could get a little boost if somehow there was a settlement and Deshaun Watson was going to come back. But I mean, the way Deshaun Watson looked in the preseason game and the fact that he's got to sit out half the season at least before he plays, I'm not sure he's going to show up and be awesome. Anyway, both of these guys, it's the same thing. It's that I don't know for sure what their volume's going to be. And their quarterback play, most importantly, is going to be dreadful.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll see Metcalf and Lockett split, as for the past couple of years, split more than people are drafting it as if, because Lockett goes 3 or 4 rounds later than Metcalf does. And I think the Browns will do everything they can, and the Seattle will as well, to be as run-heavy as the game script allows them to be.
Metcalf is about wide receiver 23 on both CBS and fantasy. CBS and NFC. On Fantasy Pros, he's wide receiver 18 in full PPR. So when you get to, let's say, Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman, Gabriel Davis, would you rather have DK Metcalf or that trio? How many in that trio? Darnell Mooney, Rashad Bateman, Gabriel Davis.
Mooney, Metcalf, Bateman, Davis for me. But I'm the low guy on Davis.
Looks like Derwin James is done holding out or holding in. He got a contract extension.
Good.
That is great. Okay. All right. So those are your. And then would you rather have Amari Cooper or a guy you don't love so much, Alan Lazard?
I've got Lazard a full round and a half ahead of Amari Cooper.
Oh, so you really don't want Amari Cooper. Waddle. Take a look at ADP. is wide receiver 14 on Fantasy Pros. He is wide receiver 16 on NFC. And he is in that range on CBS. He's right in between DJ Moore and Chris Godwin. So should he be a top 16 wide receiver, Jamie?
No, not if Tyreek Hill is there. And last time I checked, he's there. He's fine. It just I can't see a scenario where both of these guys are being drafted in the spots that they are and getting the type of numbers you need them to get to be successful. And like you see the projections here for our site where he's the 10th wide receiver. He had 140 targets last year, over 100 catches. We're projecting him to do that again. I can't see that. I mean, unless Tua is going to take such a significant step, maybe he does. And maybe Mike McDaniel's system allows both these guys to flourish. But, I mean, Gesicki's still going to get catches. Ced Wilson's somebody that they like. Is still going to be involved. The running backs are still going to be involved. And I just can't see both of these guys having the same type of production that you're expecting from them and replicating what he did a year ago. I think Jaylen Waddle is still a starting fantasy wide receiver. It's the same thing that I said about Adams and Debo. This isn't don't draft them to be starters, but I think in PPR he's closer to wide receiver 20, if not a couple spots behind. And in non-PPR, where I don't think he's going to score 7 touchdowns, I think he's probably going to get 5. I mean, he's a borderline number 2 guy there. So I'm just concerned that we're drafting Jaylen Waddle as if Tyreek Hill doesn't exist, and I just don't think that's right.
Boy, but he's like, this comment here is so appropriate. Jaylen Waddle would be an absolute beast if Tyreek Hill wasn't there.
Agreed.
That's what's so hard about this. Is it possible we're just too low on Tua? You know,
potentially,
and support.
I mean, look,
2 top guys.
You know, I think it was Colin Cowherd who tweeted there was, you know, the first video that went out this offseason about Tua underthrowing Tyreek Hill and the Dolphins kind of promoting that. And then it was almost every video from mostly beat reporters, so it's not like the team was doing this, of Tua making these incredible plays in training camp. And Colin Cowherd said it's amazing that Tua is the first quarterback in the NFL history that hasn't had a bad throw in training camp, because everything was just so glowing. And then you see a couple of, no mistakes. He's going to make mistakes. He's an average human being. We're going to see him have flaws. But there's a creative coach. There's an upgraded offensive line, and there's just unbelievable weapons. My fear is that these weapons are not going to maximize. Tua's not going to maximize these weapons. I think he's just going to keep them afloat. And that's my fear, is that we're not going to see the best of Tyreek Hill, which I think is understandable because he's losing Patrick Mahomes. And I don't think we're going to see the best of Jaylen Waddle from a year ago because Tyreek Hill's there.